In this video, I'll show you how to bring in a text file into Landstar. In this case, you can see there's some spaces in between our columns, but we also have spaces in the codes. Now you have to fix that, and I find the biggest or the quickest way to get rid of that is this way. Oh, and there's a first line with a header, which I will just delete. So let's start there, and I just delete that first line. So obviously we have a code field, a tag field. Then it's your easting, your northing, and your Z, or your Y, your X, and your Z. And what I would like to do is just to remove multiple spaces. So I'll just go boom, boom, just copy 2 spaces with dragging my mouse. And then I'll just say copy that, and I'll go to edit, and I'll say find and replace. So I'll just say replace. And usually it puts it there automatically. So you just paste it there, and then you just tell it to replace it with a comma. Now you'll see why I do this. And I'll just say replace all. And you'll see lots and lots of commas everywhere. And here I can still see there's a space and a comma, but it's okay. And there I have a space. So you just have to be mindful of these spaces. So now we're just going to say, well, take one space out at the top. And in this case, because we've got commas everywhere where I want them, I don't have to replace it with a comma again. So I'll just say replace it with nothing, including names of spaces in those spaces there. They will also be replaced. So I'm just putting that same space that I copy with my mouse, because I don't know what character it is. Might be some other funny ASCII character. And I just place that space in there, and I replace it with nothing by literally selecting, double click on that field and just pressing delete a few times. There's nothing now. So I'll say replace all. So now the whole file is cleaned up of funny spaces. And then I can just say take one comma and another one, replace all, and just do that a couple of times until there's only one comma in between the columns. And that will then import into the software quite nicely. And then also remember that your tag field must be a unique value. So, or if the GPS is going to import that, that's going to be a name field. And then we just save this. And I'm going to save it on I've got an Android emulator that I'm using here, but you can save it directly to your GPS. Landstar will be happy with that. So let me just find that. So I'm going to put it in my downloads folder on my controller and give it a name. And it can be a TXT or a CSV, it doesn't matter. Just be mindful that you have to still tell the software how to use it. And if you want to call it a CSV, you can actually put it in inverted brackets. I'm going to say inverted bracket. This is my set out coordinates dot CSV, close the brackets. And that will ignore this text document TXT format, because it's going to apply whatever is in the inverted brackets, but it's going to save it in my downloads folder. And then on my GPS, I'm now going to say import. And then I have to build it the way I want to bring it in. I have to say it's entered points, for instance. And then the format, let's say I'm just going to create a new one. So I'll just say add format. And I know that it is a code field. Then it's a name field. So I'm going to say code. These are literally just some values I type in for myself. So I recognize it when I want to use that format. So that's easting, that's northing. So I have to put in there an east. Or if in South Africa, that's going to be a Y value, and the X for the northing. And then there's a Z or a height. Okay, and then we make sure it's a CSV, and I deleted the header line, so this is definitely going to be off. It's a comma separated value in between the columns. And then I just have to program it. So let's just get rid of the wrong ones out of sequence. So the very first column is my code field, so that can remain. And then I'm going to say it's east. Oh, sorry, not east. Go back. It's actually my name field. So let's go make it name. And then we go to east, and then north, and then elevation. Okay, and what I also like to do is I like to tell myself that it's a .csv. So I just put that in brackets. Oops, that should be a C. Okay, so that's a name I'm giving it, and I'll easily recognize that next time I import the files. I'll say save. And then you can see I can select it in the list. So let's step back one, go back one. So this is what I did. I'll say import, it's entered points, and then you pick that new format you just created and say okay, and go to next. And then you have to find wherever you put that file. So it's going to be on my controller under my downloads, and there's my setout.csv that corresponds with the file format I created here and the setup in Landstar. So if I say open, that file will import without any problems. What you will find here, you can see this file. Actually, I didn't see it, but it seems like the file has duplicate names. So let's just go down and see that. So it's like it's duplicating itself at some point. There we go. So there we start at 1 again. So it imports the first lot. Then it sees that that first number 1 exists. And then it says, well, do we want to just import these points and rename the new number 1 with a 1-1? So we can just say overwrite all. If we say overwrite all, it will replace these ones with the imported ones. So it's better if you work with this to make sure that your name field is unique so that you don't have duplicate names coming in the file. Okay, so there's already a base one at the top of the file. Look at that. Here's a base one already. So these number 1, that's why it's just complaining to tell me that there's duplicate. So if I say overwrite all, it's literally going to take my number 1 and replace it with the second version of the number 1, which is not what I want. I actually want to bring in all the coordinates, but it was an oversight in the file that whoever named the names on the points didn't do it properly. So I'm going to say overwrite, switch that off, and rather just rename it to create that second value. So then I'll say, okay, you can see there that there's 745 points that have duplicate names. So this will sort that out. So if I say, okay, now all those points are imported, and you'll see there's 3077. So I assume whoever did this possibly duplicated the points inside the file in any case. So it's actually double coordinates. But at least you can see how Landstar will handle it. So it will be non-destructive and it will import those points. So you will see the points, and you can actually tell it to go on a name field and only show points with a _1, for instance. And then you'll just see those points, or we can just go and say sort this by name, and you can really quickly okay, it's not so easy. I think on the controller you can actually tap on these names and it should sort it by that. But yeah, the points are there, and I normally look at the easting and a northing value and a height to make sure that they are there. And the coordinates looks like they are imported properly. So this will work. So if I go back to my survey menu and I go to map survey and I say zoom all, and there they go. There's all the points. All right. Now the first time you normally import points, the labels are usually upside down, but as soon as you start using it and your GPS is actually on, you'll see there it flipped it around automatically. So that's just something Landstar does. So don't be alarmed by the upside down text. It's all good. Okay, and that's how you import the Space-Delimited file, converting it to CSV with funny characters in some of the code fields, and it should solve most of your import problems that you might find in Landstar.